Mega Man X8 is a game I have a really strange relationship with. I used to really enjoy it as a big fan of the series. I mean, what's not to love? There's 3 playable characters who are all fun, the controls feel great, the music is awesome, the story is cool, and X gets to fire a big laser. Well, the problem is with the game design. Most of the levels consist either of frustrating gimmicks that go on for too long, or very bland level design with minimal platforming. There's also a shop where you need to grind for currency and items that aren't fun to collect or use. Basically, it's just not a game I enjoy playing much anymore, it sucks. So when I heard fan developer Allison DePaz was making a 16-bit demake of X8, I was interested. Version 1 of the full game came out last month, and I just got around to playing it. And wow, I thought it would be good, but I did not expect it to be this good. This is my review of Mega Man X8 16-bit. Oh, and before we start, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would really help me out. Thank you. As you can guess from the title, X8 16-bit reimagines the PS2 game to be more like the first 3 X games on the Super Nintendo. So the graphics are 16-bit, and I think it looks better this way. The stages and effects are visually more interesting, there aren't bad looking textures, and a lot of the designs are just cleaner. Like, tell me Sigma doesn't look way better in this game than the original, come on. Aside from resembling the X trilogy, there have been many other changes made in the demake. The story has been cut down from the original game, with cutscenes in between stages being removed, along with the characters of Zero and Axel. But the story isn't why I play these games. I'm not even going to bother recapping it, because that'd be better suited for a video about the original X8. So as I just mentioned, Zero and Axel are missing in this version, because the developer wanted the project to be simpler in scope, and balancing the game around 2 additional characters is definitely a lot more complicated. Again, I am completely fine with this change. You could only play as X in the original trilogy anyway, and no, X3's limited use of Zero doesn't count. But even in the later games, X is usually the most fun character to play as in my opinion. He's the only one who gets the sweet Dr. Light upgrades after all. It would be cool if Zero and Axel were added in, especially because their absence removes the fun partner mechanic from the original. But as is, the game is extremely well designed around X. Right from the get-go, I knew I was in for a good time. Being able to play through an intro stage without constant dialogue and forced tutorials every 10 seconds makes for such better pacing. After you beat the crab robot, you get to the stage select. Here's a quick recap for people not familiar with the X series. The structure of these games is you beat an intro level, and then 8 Mavericks are available to fight in any order you choose. The bosses each give a special weapon when you beat them that is very effective against one of the other bosses, creating a weakness chain. Every stage has collectibles as well. All 8 contain heart tanks which increase your health, some stages contain sub-tanks that can heal you up during fights, and some stages contain Dr. Light capsules that enhance one of X's abilities. Once you beat all 8 Mavericks, there are some final stages with one of them containing a boss rush, and then there is a final boss with multiple phases. So now that we've covered the structure, we can discuss the gameplay, and oh my god is it great. Let's start with the most notable change. The level design, the biggest issue holding back the original game, is fantastic in this version. Gimmicky stages that were not fun to play through have been completely redesigned, building on the half-baked ideas of the original game. For example, Troy Base in X8 is really underwhelming. It's a series of combat challenges where beating them fast gets you the items to complete the stage. But it's just fighting enemies in a single room, and it can be easily cheesed with the right upgrades. There's a sliver of platforming in between the challenges, but it's not a fun stage. Separating the action and platforming in the action platformer game is just really bizarre. In the demake, the action and platforming have been combined, so the challenges are all about killing enemies to keep up a rank, while racing against the clock. You need an A or S rank to get the items, and it makes for some really intense gameplay. It's a lot like Cyber Peacock stage in X4. A fantastic change. Central White is a really tedious level in the original X8. The whole stage is on a ride chaser as you shoot at enemies and jump around. Doesn't sound so bad, right? The problem is there's a boss that takes forever to kill, and they make you fight him twice. And those fights take up most of the stage. The developer changed it, so now the stage is actual exploration. You have to play as X on foot if your ride chaser blows up because you crashed into too many walls. The mini-boss is much shorter and you only fight it once. It's a fun stage now. At the same time, the stages that were well designed in the original are kept mostly the same. Booster Forest was a cool stage where the goal is to keep the ride armor with you the whole time, while sticking to the upper pathways to get all the items. This meant you had to have good platforming and keep the ride armor from blowing up. It was a solid stage, and the only change the demake makes is an improvement where if your ride armor explodes, you can backtrack to the checkpoint to get one with half health from the enemy, so you don't have to replay the whole stage to get one item. It seems like the developer's philosophy was keep what works and redesign what doesn't. Because of how weak the level design in the original was, over half the game has been reworked. creating a new experience that still feels like Mega Man X8. It's awesome. The special weapons have also been improved. In X8, the special weapons were kinda weak, at least for X. I will say Axles were pretty fun to use, but X's charge shot was just so strong that it made the special weapons feel pointless. In the demake, the X-Buster is still crazy good, but the special weapons are also great too, like the Thunder Dancer that hones in on enemies to kill them, which I used to get an S rank in the first Troya base challenge. It gives you another dash when it's fully charged, and even powers up lights in Inferno and Pitch Black. There's the Optic Shield that reflects back enemy projectiles, or the Flame Dash that kills enemies while giving you an angled vertical dash. You get the point. They're really good weapons I enjoy using, which the original did not have. The Dr. Light upgrades are really interesting. Some of them are the same as the original, but others have been reworked and they're all useful. Like how in Booster Force you can get a double jump and a second air dash which opens up exploration and makes dodging attacks much easier. Or how in Dynasty you get the beam attack, so X is a giant laser that shreds through the whole game. It has actually been buffed from the original game, where X had some lag after using it. Starting with X5, every X game has 2 set of armors for X, meaning there's a light capsule on every Maverick stage. X8 introduced the idea of mixing and matching parts between the 2 armor sets. However, you miss out on the armor's exclusive X-Drive move by not wearing a complete set. It was a really great idea that is even better in the demake. There's a lot of variety in how X plays, and there are pros and cons to the set you choose. Like if you wear the full Hermes armor set, the X-Drive makes you invincible for 10 seconds. But you lose out on the double jump and X-Buster laser by doing this. If you wear the Icarus body part, you take less damage and have no knockback. But you can't heal the damage you take from bosses because that's part of the Hermes body part. There's a lot of different and viable ways to play through the game and I love the variety. The boss fights are very fun in this game. They're all pretty intense, especially whichever ones you have to do first, but they become much more comfortable once you get some upgrades and especially sub-tanks. One change I really appreciate is unlike the original, in every other X game, you can't lock them into simple patterns by hitting them with their weakness. It made the fights really boring, and as a result, I often fought them only using the X-Buster to give myself an actual challenge. Every boss has an overdrive move that is more powerful and has a larger hitbox. I have a slight issue with these attacks in the demake. I felt like some of them were too tough to dodge. Namely, Dark Mantis's is very fast and it takes out half your HP if he hits you. As it turns out though, you can just use the charged version of a boss's weakness to break them out of it. I didn't know this until after I recorded the playthrough, but now I do. Before I forget, there are 4 sub-tanks in this game like X1 through X3, but a phenomenal change is every time you enter a stage, they are filled up. This means you don't have to grind for health energy. Even if you choose to grind, like if you pick up a sub-tank in the stage and it's empty, it fills up much faster than in the first 3 X games. What a nice quality of life change. There are also achievements in this game, which is a pretty cool feature that adds to the replay value. Oh, and there's no shop in this version. Thank you. With so many collectibles and so much freedom on when to get them, I like coming up a path through these games that gets me every item, gets the best light capsules first, and most importantly, minimizes or ideally nullifies backtracking. All these conditions are pretty tricky to do together, especially playing the game without backtracking. Only in a few games can you even achieve this, like Zero's playthrough in X4. The complication with this weird routing is it means I have to fight some bosses outside a traditional weakness order, meaning they're much tougher. But I usually fight these guys without their weaknesses anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. I don't even know the full weakness order in some of these games, to be honest. I was really excited on my first playthrough because due to the redesigned levels, I wasn't sure the best route, where all the items were, or even what the upgrades did in this version of the game. I was basically playing a new X game for the first time, so I just focused on collecting everything and trying to beat the game. But after my second playthrough, I theorized a route where I can get all the best upgrades first and I never have to backtrack. And I executed that plan on my third playthrough when I made it to the stage select screen. The route starts in Booster Forest. This is the stage where you get the Icarus foot parts, aka the double jump and second air dash, which are extremely useful. You can also get all the items in the stage using just the ride armor. I think you can take the ride armor with you into the boss fight, but I haven't been able to do that yet. Bamboo Pandemonium is a pretty tricky fight to do first since his attacks hurt a lot. I died my first time this playthrough, but they're not that hard to dodge once you understand the patterns, and remember, you can double jump around him. Don't believe me? I took no damage my second time fighting him. Even got an achievement for that. Still, there's no shame in getting a game over on him. I think every boss is tough to do first in this game. Pandemonium gives you the blast launcher, which is a grenade that also destroys spikes. That is a really useful weapon considering they insta-kill you and some collectibles are in spike-filled areas. Next, I did Central White, whose light capsule contains the Hermes head parts, which speeds up the X-Buster charge. That's a very good upgrade, but what's even more important is the first sub-tank. I then grinded a little to fill it up before fighting Avalanche Yeti. I did cut it extremely close this fight because of how massive his overdrive attack is, but a win is a win. Third, I did Dynasty, which is another level that has been reworked from a boring gimmick into a really fun stage. This is my favorite place to grind lives in the game, by the way. You can get 4 of them like a minute into the stage, it's great. But the real prize here are the Icarus Buster parts, which gives you a giant laser. Combine that with the faster X-Buster charge, and you can go absolutely crazy on the bosses in this game because of the low iframes. This is the main weapon I used throughout the whole game because it's really fun and strong. Both Buster parts let you charge special weapons, and the Icarus one makes charged versions consume no ammo for added benefit. Gigavolt Manowar, Jesus Christ that name, goes down easily because of the upgrades. I will say that I tried this guy first in my initial playthrough and I couldn't beat him, but I think doing him early is smart. You can even do him second, but then you won't have a sub-tank for him with my routing. But his weapon is Avalanche Yeti's weakness, so it's probably worth exploring. Next up I did Pitch Black, which is probably the best level from the original game. There's fun parts like trying to dodge searchlights and having to dodge lasers while sliding down the walls. In this stage the lights are out, but if you have the Thunder Dancer, which you just got, you can turn them on and get all the items. Side note, I think the Thunder Dancer is my favorite special weapon in the game. It just homes in and kills enemies so quickly. This stage gives you the Hermes body parts, where when you take damage, most of it can be immediately healed back if you counterattack the enemy before the red bars disappear. This was attached to the partner mechanic in the original game, and I like how it was reworked for a solo X playthrough. Healing yourself for attacking the enemy is really broken, especially when you have a laser that charges fast. With all these upgrades, Dark Mantis doesn't have a chance anymore, even with his busted overdrive move. And after that, well, it doesn't really matter for me. This combination of armor upgrades, the Hermes head and body parts with the Icarus Buster and foot parts, are my preferred way of playing the game. You have great movement, great offense, and access to fast healing. The other upgrades are still good, and I do collect them, but I think these are the best for beating the game, especially the fights in the last levels. I feel like my pathing isn't the most beginner friendly since you only have one sub-tank and can't use weaknesses on the first 4 Mavericks, but everyone has their own way of playing the game and I just wanted to share mine. It's really cool you can get all the items without backtracking in this path. I personally did Meadow Valley next, then Inferno, followed by Primrose, and I ended with Troya Base. I did that one last because the more options you have, gives you a better shot at getting S ranks in the level. And if you get S ranks on all 3 challenges in a row, you get access to some secret bosses, which are pretty neat. Cutman is a joke like the original game, but the others are really tough. Serenade from Mega Man Battle Network has fast attacks that hit like a truck, and he even reflects your own projectiles back at you, so you want to fight him without using them. And then Red from X7 can only be fought with no upgrades, and he heals himself whenever he hits you. I haven't gone around to beating these guys yet, but it is cool that they're in the game. And getting all S ranks in one go of Troya Base was really satisfying. Look at how close I came to missing the S rank on the second challenge. Definitely the best stage in the game. Oh, and random side note, but Earthrock Trilobite just gets absolutely clapped by the laser, it's hilarious. He even goes through his overdrive move, my god. So now we reach the final stages. Jacob Elevator was barely a level in the original. You killed enemies in an auto-scroller with no platforming and that was the whole stage. But in this game, there's some actual platforming added. It's basically a whole new level. Gateway was just a boss rush where you fought a fake Sigma at the end. In the demake, every transporter takes you to a fun mini level based on one of the 8 Mavericks. Then you fight 2 of the Mavericks together as opposed to a boring repeat fight like every other Mega Man game does. I didn't love this change at first since the fights can be a bit chaotic together, but the laser weapon changed my mind. You can shred through these bosses and hit both of them at the same time. I killed most of them before they even cheesed me with an overdrive move, and there's some strategy in which 2 you do together. Like I ended up doing Bamboo Pandemonium and Earthrock Trilobite together, but because of how short Trilobite is, I can't hit Pandemonium with the laser if I want to attack him, and vice versa. I really like this stage. Easily the best boss rush I've ever played in a Mega Man game. I just recommend stacking up on lives before it, because it helps to have a lot of sub-tanks for the Imposter Sigma. The final level was actually pretty good in the original and it's largely unchanged here, except this spike section is much easier due to Pandemonium's weapon. So now we get to the final boss who kicked my ass at first and even killed me twice on this playthrough. There's 3 phases and they're all really intense, especially the last phase. I mean, look at all this chaos on the screen. Oh my god, how are you supposed to dodge some of this? Thankfully when you die, you don't have to worry about restarting or getting a game over because there's a sub-tank refill and an extra life on top. The Hermes body part and the Icarus Buster part combo really helps out here. It's a really tough fight, but I'm definitely getting better at it. I beat it only using 2 sub-tanks this time. I popped off a little when I first beat it because of how tough it was. That reminded me of when I first beat X4 actually. A great end to a great game. And that's it. I hope you can see why I love this game so much. The developer took a mediocre game and transformed it into one of the best fan games ever. One of my favorite Mega Man games and I can't wait to keep playing it. I barely had any complaints with it, honestly. I really think it's that well designed. I don't think it completely replaces the original, since the story is less important here and there's no Zero and Axel. But I would say, if you only played this version, you'd still be playing X8 and would be having the far superior experience. If this game looked fun to you, I recommend checking it out. The link is in the description. And thanks for watching this video.